Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
We're talking about crash outs today. We're talking about those days when you hit the bubbling point and you go absolutely crazy.
Is it bubbling or boiling? Hold on.
Is it a bubbling point or a boil? I'm not sure.
I think it's a boiling point. I would think it's a boiling point, but you can say bubbling.
But I think we've all had those moments where we just there's chaos, utter chaos in our lives. We are bursting. Let's go with bursting at the seams with just I'm crazy. You'll know this happens because you usually have to apologize to somebody after it happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's your spouse, your kids, hopefully it's not your boss, yourself. But this happens, right? Like we get to that point where we've missed a couple workouts. We've kind of skipped things. We hit that stress point where we really feel that chaos. And today we're talking about moving that from chaos to peak performance and doing it quickly in 3 easy steps like we do on the podcast.
Yes. And oftentimes it's our own fault. And that's what we want to really stress with this is the times that it is your fault. Because chaos does happen. Tragedies happen. You get in a car accident, all of that stuff, as long as it wasn't your fault. And there is going to be chaos. So you can't avoid chaos totally. However, if your day, 5-6 days a week are chaotic or 7 days a week are chaotic, it's probably you. I'm just guessing, just a guess out there. And really, if you have multiple days of the week that are chaotic, it's probably you. Now, some people have jobs that are very chaotic. I get that, and that oftentimes it's not really their fault. It's whoever's above them is creating the chaos, and they have to deal with it. So I understand all of this, but we're talking about what you can control. So throughout your day, make sure you're not creating any extra chaos. And then if you are, what are the steps you need to do? Like we said, is from chaos to peak performance.
Yeah, and I think one of the key ingredients here, right? That people I think when people hear this, they go, "Oh, well, obviously," but then you say, "Yeah, but you're still having the crash outs." So it's right, obviously is not a thing. But I think one of the key components here is preparation.
Yeah,
it's about making sure you're prepared and planning ahead a little bit. And you don't have to be. I'm a big fan of planning out my week, but even just kind of planning out the few hours ahead of you, can really help put a significant dent in how crazy things feel sometimes.
Yeah. Something that I've worked on with staff, as you know, for many years is setting yourself up for success. And that's really what we're talking about is are you prepared and are you doing things to set your day up, your week up, or whatever thing you're going on for success? If you're late to something, you're already starting behind. You're already starting where you feel stressed and you're creating that anxiety that you could have avoided if you're on time or early. So setting yourself up for success. So that's just a little offshoot of why we're doing this podcast. And I think the steps are simple, and I love what you said is some people are going to be like, well, yeah, I know that. Okay, great. Are you doing it? Because most people know what to do, but they don't do it. So we're here to remind you. Successful people don't need to be told what to do, but they often need reminders, and that's what we're here for.
Because when you show up in a meeting with me and your hair's frazzled and you're 5 minutes late, right? The same way I show up for this podcast, right? Like my hair is frazzled in 5 minutes. Like poor preparation on my part for sure. I should set the coffee maker the night before, but let's talk about that. How to be better prepared to turn that chaos into peak performance. And number one really starts with that honest assessment, right?
Yeah.
Picking that one area of your life where you feel like your hair is messed and you're late, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're speeding around the corner to get to that thing, or the thing you're just not doing, right? The thing that you get to the workout and you go, hey, I got 5 minutes to get to the gym or to get and I can't find my shoes. Mm-hmm. But pick an area, pick that one spot that's the biggest pain point.
Now, once you have that area, now you need to rate it. And I always like to rate it on a 1 through 10 scale because that gives you enough variable that a 7 is not bad, but an 8 is a little bit better. But if you're a 6 or a 5, and especially below that, wow, you got a lot of work to do, So rating that and really rate it through, what's rate your routines, your mindset, the resources. Like you said, did you set your shoes out the night before? Did you get your workout clothes set out the night before? Are you scrambling to say, "Oh, I wanted to wear that, but it's in the laundry. It's dirty."
Yeah.
That should have all been taken care of ahead of time.
I have teenage girls. Like
Oh yeah,
this is like you're
yeah.
speaking my language. And then identifying the cost. I think this is so important. I think whenever you sit down and look at something like this, you should get a little bit of pain.
Hmm.
And this is really where that why is. It's about identifying the cost.
Right.
Not knowing where my sneakers is in the morning, not getting to the gym is keeping me a little tubby, right? Like like we need to know that. But on a serious note, like not having, pre-planned, like what you're going to do with your spouse when when your kids are, out or whatever, you're going to end up with a bored spouse and your relationship's not going to be as good as it can be. So, I think really looking at that cost and saying, geez, like this lack of preparation is really having an impact here. So that way you feel it in your gut a little will help motivate you to get into the next part.
Yeah, and I think some people need to be harder on themselves.
Yeah.
Of course, some people are too hard on themselves, and they're not their own fans.
Yeah.
You need to be that, but you need that balance of being your biggest fan, but also your biggest critic. I think that's a good having both makes a big difference. If I didn't prepare for something, I'd be like, yeah, this is why I didn't prepare, and I can make all the excuses in the world, but I'm just going to get better next time. So I don't beat myself up as long as I come up with a solution. And I think that's a good balance because that way you don't have to have like most kids need that external discipline. You have the internal discipline to make changes and fixes.
That's why I use
So
strong words like tubby.
I love Tubby. That's
Because
that's funny.
because
That's a good word.
it's not as
It's a
mean
nice
as I
word,
could.
Tubby.
It's a
A
good
little
word.
Tubby.
Little tubby.
So moving on to step 2, this is talking about simple planning systems.
Yeah.
This is important. The first word is important. Simple, because if it is complex, you're just not going to do it. And that's the bottom line. It's just not going to get done. So it's about selecting a preparation ritual, right? That's really what it is. So focusing on one habit, lifestyle, that is really going to make the biggest difference. And it could be that Sunday check-in. It could be that 10-minute nightly review. It could be getting up in the morning and rewriting your goals. Having some type of ritual that's going to get your day started.
And I think keeping it really simple is part of it because I think what you have to be able to do is say, okay, every night for 5 minutes, I'm just going to look at my calendar for the next day and look for those hiccups. Look for like what am I feeling unprepared for?
Hmm.
And if there's nothing, then maybe look at the calendar and say, what can I feel more prepared for? Right? Like how can I be better prepared for this meeting? How can I be better, showing up for my spouse, tomorrow? I think if you can, but locking in that consistency where, even if I feel super prepared, I'm still going to take that 5 minutes or 10 minutes and think about how I can be more prepared or better prepared for the day ahead is going to make you feel like a peak performer.
Then once you've done these first 2 sub steps in this action, is now time to stack. So stack some habits. We talk about habit stacking all the time. It's one of our core principles, one of our core ideas that we promote. And a real simple one is you take a walk with your significant other.
Yeah.
That does 2 things. You're getting exercise, but also hopefully you're talking. Hopefully the walk isn't that you both put in earbuds and you're walking together, right? That hopefully is not what you're doing, that you're actually talking and conversing as you're walking. That's a great habit stack. It's very, very simple. And I see a lot of people in my neighborhood doing that. And I'm like, wow, that's really good. I'm glad they're doing that. And then but it could be a bunch of different things. It could be pick it. It doesn't have to be just that.
Yeah. 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 You definitely don't want to jog with your spouse. And if you do, you want to let her win. Make sure
Oh, for
she's a little
sure.
bit ahead.
For
Don't,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't be that guy.
Don't be that
Um,
good.
And then, so the last part of this, so once we've got this preparation together, we want to put it into action, right? Never leave the sight of a goal without taking an action. And also, once you start to make this momentum, it's important to take an action. So I
Mhm.
love the thought of just doing one small action, right? Do that one concrete step, that aligns with what you're trying to prepare. Whether listen, if you want to eat healthier, go to Wegmans and buy some of those containers, right? Where you can put the
Mhm.
food into,
Yep.
because I think one of the things with meal prep is we go, how am I going to get it from A to B, right? Go buy the containers, schedule that conversation, really look ahead and get that one action done.
And then you need to do some daily tracking. And what we're talking about with this is we talk about journaling all the time and how important
Yeah,
journaling is. This
sure.
is just like a small little thing. And what you're really going to do is just write a sentence or two on how it went, how you feel about your new thing that you're working on, the new habit, the new ritual that you're doing. This is beneficial because if you do that on a daily basis and then you read it over, you're like, oh, because you forget
Yeah,
how you felt that day, the next day, and you may gloss things over, and sometimes you think it's worse than it is, and some people think it's better than it is. So the goal is to be in that middle. That's why yin yang works so well. Is you want to be in the middle because either extreme of too positive or too negative isn't good for you improving.
yeah. And then making sure we're doing as always, right? We're doing a weekly review.
Yeah.
And the reason the weekly review is so important is because we're not here to give you homework that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
We're not here to just give you stuff to do.
Busy
You want
work.
to make
Yeah.
sure, I mean, a little bit, but you only
Okay.
three steps and you want to make sure they're working, right? So
Yeah.
looking at it weekly, and really saying, hey, how did this work? Looking for that proof that it's working.
Hmm.
And, hopefully you can find some proof if you're doing this right. If you
Yeah.
can't, we have to make an adjustment. Right. And we'd rather have you making those adjustments on a weekly basis instead of waiting quarterly or God forbid, annually,
Yeah.
right? To
Like
fix
most people do. Yeah.
like most people, like average people do,
Yeah.
annually to fix the things that aren't working. So make sure you have
Right.
that weekly momentum review.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this. So we're talking about from 3 steps from chaos to performance. And the first step is that honest assessment. This is usually the toughest one to do. You want to pick one area, start with one area, and then you want to rate it. We like to use the 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the best, of course. And then this is an important step that you don't want to miss is what's the cost of not doing it?
Yeah,
This, what are you going to lose out on?
yeah,
So put a little pain in your life on purpose about this, and that can be pain can be a huge motivator. The FOMO, the fear of missing out, is
yeah.
huge. And if you apply that systematically and on purpose, it can make a big difference with your motivation.
Pain is the great motivator.
It is.
Absolutely. Step two, get a simple planning system, right? So figure out what is that preparation ritual you're going to do. How are we going to be more prepared? Make sure we can do it consistently, right? And even on the days when you feel prepared, still do it. It's funny on the podcast we just did about momentum, we talked about never missing 2 days in a row, right?
Right.
Always,
Yeah.
always kind of keep that action because it becomes part of your habits. So design it for consistency and then habit stacking, try to stack those habits with other habits that are going to make you more prepared and work together. That'll save you time and that'll just make the process work better.
And then step three is you got to put it in action. All of this is great. You did all the preparation, but then you didn't take any action. Well, you just wasted your time. So put it in action. So what's the one small step you're going to do right now, today? That's Anthony Robbins is huge on that. Once you set a goal, you need to start taking action on it immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, not I'll start everything on Monday. As soon as you start that goal, you start it. Then from there, you want to track it daily. And this is more of not that you did it, but how you felt doing it. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. The daily tracking is a sentence or two of how you felt when you did it. And then the step three is you take your full 7 days of how you felt, you look it over, and that's your weekly review. And we suggest you do it on Sunday. That way you can set up your week for Monday and you're hitting the ground running on Monday. But all of these stack on top of each other. So you have to take action. You have to make sure that you're doing that daily review. And then you do the weekly ritual review.
Absolutely. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Be sure to visit our new website. Check out all the cool new features over there at achieveresultsnow.com.
And get ready
Share
for the
this
book.
and get ready for the book. Make sure your email is in our box so we can let you know. Share this podcast with somebody who you think would get some value from it. That's how we grow. And we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.